What is going on, y'all, and welcome to a brand new video where we are going to be going in-depth on some brand new American Marksman information. Now, the gameplay you're going to be watching in the background is from Off-Road Outlaws, and without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into the topics of the video. Now, right here at the top of the video, the first thing I want to dive into is this, and this was said by a developer, and they answered a question where someone asked, could y'all give a rough estimate on when the game will be out? And they said early next year, which hopefully, crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, that means either January or February of 2023. But that is the closest we have gotten to any sort of release date so far, and I'm honestly really happy that they even dropped that. Like, they usually don't even drop ranges, especially if you compare it to update schedules or release schedules for games like Off-Road Outlaws or No Limit Drag Racing 2.0, these devs don't usually drop release date ranges like that. And I don't think they would drop a range like that unless they were very, very confident that we were going to be seeing American Marksman on our devices in early 2023. Now, we also know from prior experience with games like Off-Road Outlaws and No Limit Drag Racing 2.0 that things like full releases and update releases can sometimes happen on kind of an uneven schedule in terms of iOS versus Android devices, and that just comes down to the fact that sometimes one device will approve an update or a new game faster than the other device will, and usually the faster approvals happen on Android, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they happen on Apple devices, and it's really not any fault of the developers, it's just something that happens with the release schedules of games on mobile systems like this. Because I always see in, comment sections, whether they be on, Facebook or YouTube or different areas across the internet, whenever a release happens on one side of mobile platforms but not on the other, you generally always have a group of people that's like, I can't believe you would release it on this platform before this platform, or, why the heck would you do this? Why would you abandon this platform and give this other platform the game early? And honestly, that's not quite how this works. Usually, a game will get kind of distributed and sent out at about the same time, and then it's up to the platforms themselves on how long the approval process takes. It's really not any, favoritism from a developer. The developers would want as many people as possible to be playing their game, naturally. So if they want as many people as possible to be playing their game, trust me, it getting approved on one platform before another doesn't really benefit the devs at all. They would have no reason to favor one platform over the other. But switching up topics a little bit, let's talk about some of the in-game shops that you're going to be seeing in American Marksman. Like, for example, Crazy Eddie's, which we've seen in Off-Road Outlaws. Next up, we have our low to mid-tier dealer. Then we have our military dealer. Then after that, we also have the trading post, which is some limited edition stuff. We also have Homestead Supply, which is where you're going to get all of your farm props from. And then we have Apex, which is going to be your high-end dealer. Now, as you work your way through the game, you build up your gold, you build up your cash. Obviously, you'll be able to go and shop in different areas. Now, obviously, as you can see under the military shop, that one is covered by an opening soon sign. Now, I don't know if that opening soon sign is going to carry over to the full release of the game or not. And that may be just a little bit of a teaser, or that may also still read opening soon once the game officially releases. We'll have to wait and see on that one, because only time will tell. The next one I want to talk about is the mode selection screen. Now, this will be very reminiscent of Off-Road Outlaws for those of you that play Off-Road Outlaws, and I'm pretty sure that most of the people that are going to be playing American Marksman have had experience with Off-Road Outlaws or are pretty active Off-Road Outlaws players. Now, in the first mode, on the far left, the description is, word about your shot is getting around, landowners are lining up to take advantage of your abilities, which means you'll probably be going around to different pieces of land for different hunts. Then you have the guided hunt in the middle, which is, that allows you to go on a guided hunt with a specific animal on the line. Don't worry, you'll have help, so that's going to be kind of interesting. And then you have the heli hunt, which we've seen some screenshots and heard some information about that will actually allow you to conduct the hunt from a helicopter, which is freaking insane. And another thing that I find quite interesting is the customization in American Marksman looks to be very similar to the way we would customize vehicles in Off-Road Outlaws, because look at all of this detail here on all of the individual parts, the individual functions, the individual add-ons that have been selected and added here. Everything has that really detailed edge that, again, you would see on, say, something like especially the newer vehicles, the newer, like, you know, recently added vehicles in Off-Road Outlaws that they've added a little bit later on. I mean, they're putting so much detail into American Marksman, especially for a mobile game, that, I mean, it's honestly pretty mind-blowing how far they're willing to go to push the limits of mobile devices, because remember, this game still also has to run on slightly older devices and slightly outdated hardware, so while being able to push the limits on the newer devices and also still be able to run on the older devices, I think they're doing a really good job of trying to be able to run well on as wide of a range of devices as possible, and I'm sure that that is made possible by, you know, visual quality selectors within the game. And another thing that will be very familiar to Off-Road Outlaws players is this updated look at the title screen, or the main screen, for example. Now, you can see your barn/barn house. You have your initial, like, hunt button, which would be just the drive button or the play button in Off-Road Outlaws. Down there across the bottom, you got your farm, your equipment, your shops, your vehicles, your trophies, and, of course, your buy gold option, your photo mode option, and right under where it says American Marksman up on the top left corner, if you look just below that, you can actually check out the latest show winners, which is basically the equivalent of how it would be done with the car show in Off-Road Outlaws. So the mechanics of the way the game is designed is going to be very, very, very familiar. But I think that it's actually really good, because if you've been playing games from these developers for a long time, you'll already have an idea going into the game how the interface is going to work. You'll have a feel for it already. It'll just be an exercise in getting familiar with the way the game actually works, getting familiar with the way the new missions actually work. But as far as navigating throughout the game itself, you're pretty much good to go right out of the gate if you have experience with Off-Road Outlaws or No Limit Drag Racing 2.0. And now at this point in the video, I would like to address some concerns about American Marksman that I've actually been seeing in several different comment sections throughout the community. Now, one recurring theme is whenever I see a post from the developers that says, you know, the game is coming soon, or like we talked about in this video, they gave that update about how it'll be out early next year, and you always have a few people in just about every comment section saying things like, oh, well, they're only saying it's going to be out early next year when it's really going to be, you know, 4, 5, 6 months away, and I don't agree with that. Now, granted, I could be wrong. This could be a completely incorrect take here. Nobody knows when the game is going to come out, but I don't think that they would be giving us info like that. Like, I don't feel like they would be telling us that it would be out early next year if it wasn't going to come out for another 6 months. Because again, you know, what good would that do them as developers if they told us it was going to be out early next year and then it came out, like, you know, 6 months later? Like, there would be no benefit to that whatsoever, because whatever hype they would have generated from that, if they waited that long and it took that long, you know, that hype would be really hard to maintain. So if you're trying to look at it from a window of, you know, when they want to release it, if they're hyping us up for a very specific window, that being early next year, early 2023, I think that that is a pretty realistic target for what it probably is going to be. Now, again, I could be wrong here, but from all of the evidence that I've seen, and especially the teasers that the devs themselves have put out, that seems to be the most logical release range. I'm not going to say release date, but definitely release range. Now, of course, that's not to say that the game could not face technical difficulties or delays, because sometimes games do, both in the console space, the PC space, and on mobile, you know, in the mobile space as well. I mean, we've seen games in the mobile space get delayed. Now, do I think that American Marksman is going to get delayed? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The developers have said many times that they're working hard to make it one of the best, if not the best, hunting experiences on mobile devices. So, however long it takes them to do that, I definitely think that they should. And, I mean, the answer I always have to, you know, to people that say, well, but why don't you just release it sooner and fix whatever issues it has later? Like, release it now, and then fix the issues later. Because then, if they do that, we end up with, you know, like, because there have been games that have done that, And, you know, historically what we end up with when, you know, when game developers do that is we get like a buggy, glitchy mess at launch, and then, you know, later on down the line, yes, eventually they fix things, but what ends up happening is when it's a buggy, glitchy mess at launch, that ends up turning off a decent chunk of the community, and they have to be, they either don't want to come back to the game, or they have to be strongly convinced to come back to the game, and sometimes they still don't come back. So I think if they're looking for the smoothest launch possible, you know, I would rather it take a little bit longer to release, because that means that the launch is going to be smoother, that means the game is going to play better, and that means there's going to be less bugs, less glitches, and just a smoother experience for the player and the end user. But feel free to leave any other thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. But that's going to do it for this video, and if you want to stay as up to date as possible on American Marksman, Off-Road Outlaws, No Limit Drag Racing 2.0, and other related games, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn those notifications on, and I will see you guys next time.